Hey, I'm looking to hire somebody for a project, and it looks like you have the skill set that I'm looking for. Sounds pretty cool. What does it pay, though? Kind of depends. How much do you make right now? Right now, I'm making $25 an hour. That's tough. How about I pay you $0 an hour, you keep your current job, and work with me on this project part-time? Why would I do that?
Whispering incoherently, explaining the details of the project.
What do you think? You got a deal. Do I have your attention? Hey, I'm Andrew Joseph Keith. I'm an artist and sculptor and interested in entrepreneurship. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a new way to structure creative collaborative projects in a way that small teams can compete with big industries and a way that gets rid of employees. Later on, I'll be talking about the structure of these projects and the pros and cons, but first let me give you something to think about. What if somebody came up to you and said that they wanted to work with you on a project and they were going to hire you, you'd be working part-time for a couple of months without a salary. But at the end of the project, you would own a percentage of the finished project. Does that sound good or bad? Probably depends on the project, right? Let's assume that this project is something that you're interested in and it fits within your skill set. Would you be interested? Would you take the offer? What if that project turned out to be something like an Avengers movie or a TV series like The Office? The best TV series, or a game like Minecraft or a website like Instagram. You might be willing to work on a project part-time without pay for a couple of months in the hope that that project would eventually become successful and that you would own a small percentage of that project. Unfortunately, there's no way to know ahead of time if the project will be successful once it's brought to market. People are constantly talking about how employees should own part of the company or share the profits of the company. But you'll notice that they only say this when it comes to successful companies. They never say that employees should be on the hook for debt or losses. They want to share the profits of the business without sharing the potential risks or losses. The structure that I'm going to be explaining solves this issue by allowing contributors on a project to share both the risk side and the reward side of a project. For people that participate in this project, the risk is manageable. For example, you might work part-time on a project for a couple of months and then receive no financial benefit from it. You don't get paid from it at all. That's the worst case scenario on these types of projects. The upside, however, is unlimited. Unlimited. A popular project that's scalable can bring in money for years and years and years. That moolah. Now, what type of projects am I talking about? So these could be things like movies, like TV series, like online courses, intellectual property, books, crowdfunding projects, even monumental works of art that could have many artists as collaborators. There's no real limit to what these projects could potentially be, but they should be scalable. Now, I really like this idea. I really like entrepreneurship. And some of the things that people like when they think about entrepreneurship is they like the idea of freedom. They like the idea of being your own boss, of being able to build something that potentially brings in money for years and years to come, being able to create assets. And I think that this is really something that is going to be happening in the market, that people are going to want to be self-employed. They're going to want to be more like private contractors instead of employees. I think that's where the market is moving. And I think these types of projects are a way to capitalize on that. And everybody has maybe a little bit of extra time that they could spend towards building this type of project or asset in a collaborative way. And so with the extra time that you have at the end of the day that you usually spend on social media, you could be helping create something unique, working with a lot of other people to create an asset that could pay you into the future. What people that aren't business owners and aren't entrepreneurs, what they don't understand about business owners or entrepreneurship is how much risk is involved. If you're starting a business and you're hiring people, just put yourself in the shoes of a business owner that has 10 employees and it's payday and there's no money in the bank. There's no option to borrow out money. Maybe you're maxed out on your credit limit and there's no money in the bank and you don't know what to do. That is the stress of being a business owner and being responsible for these employees. Business owners often don't get paid at all. Often they pay money into their business for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. They're paying money into their business or receiving very little out of their business while other people are getting paid because their primary responsibility is to make sure others are paid and make sure that the business continues to be successful. A lot of the times that comes at the expense of their own paycheck. After those years, if the business survives that long, then that's when business owners typically start to see a reward. And then people see these business owners that become millionaires and multimillionaires and billionaires, and they say, well, that's not fair. But what they don't see is the years that they went sacrificing and building this business. It's really hard for a lot of people to understand. Another thing is that the business probably won't be successful. And I'd say the same thing about these types of projects. The chances of you having a project on the first time or a business that is successful right from the get-go, I think it's like something like 1 in 5 businesses fail within the first year, 9 out of 10 fail within 5 to 10 years. It's something like that. But it's definitely not the majority of businesses that are started that eventually become profitable businesses that continue to grow. Because the entrepreneur takes on all that risk, they then are able to also take on the upside. So they take on the possibility of the business going under, all of that debt that is incurred, or having to file bankruptcy, which is very stressful. Those types of things are taken on by the business owner. The employee basically doesn't take on any of that risk. And so they're given a salary that they agree to at the beginning, but they don't take on any of the risks that is associated with running the business. That's for the business owner, for the entrepreneur. This system that I'm thinking about, it would share that risk. And so everybody would collaborate and would put in man hours. They would work on a project together collectively on a short-term basis. I don't think it's sustainable for a project where you have to work part-time on it for a year or 2 years. I think that they would be short projects, so 1 to 3 months working part-time with as many individuals as it takes. It could be 2 people doing this project together, or it could be 200 or 2,000 people, because we have the technology where we can work with people all over the world in different sectors and create something like a video game or a animated series. Like that is possible now with the technology that we have. All that is missing is that collaborative spirit and something to structure those people and to get them motivated so that in their spare time they can be working on this project. And once it's finished, and they can take a part of that upside. Because they took the risk, they know that the project might fail, they'll also be able to participate in the upside if that project is successful. For one person to hire 100 people for 3 months part-time, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of risk up front. That's a lot of debt if you have to take out debt and hire all these employees. But if everybody is voluntarily sacrificing a little bit of their time in exchange for a percentage of the finished product, then everybody is assuming that risk. They all know that the project might fail. In fact, they all know that the project is likely to fail. But they're willing to do it because maybe they'll be able to build out their resume. They'll be able to, in the future, have something physical that they can show. I was a part of creating this project, this video game, this video, this board game, like whatever it is. I was on the team that helped create this, and I own part of this. And so it could be something that goes on your resume that helps you get your dream job. It might pay off that way. It might, never pay off financially. And so that's the risk that these types of projects would take. And I think that's why people haven't started to move in this direction, but I think it's coming. I think people are going to start realizing I could be part of a big project and take on a little bit of risk of the project if I get a piece of the upside. Okay, let's talk about structure. How would we structure this type of project? How would we bring it from an idea into a collaborative project, into a finished product within 1 to 3 months? Now, this really depends on you and your team, but I've gone through and I've been thinking about this a lot because this is something that I want to start doing, these collaborative projects. Here's how I'd like to start doing it. So first off, at the top level, you'd have the project leaders. And so this could be a person or a couple people. They have the primary responsibility of the project. The project leaders are the ones that have the idea, they have the vision for the project, and they're the ones that are reaching out to try to get people to collaborate on the project. Underneath them would be the team leaders. And so the project leaders would have to make sure that team leaders are on time and are accomplishing their tasks according to the schedule so that everything is finished on time. The team leaders, the people under them, that would be the builders. These would be people that are, writing the programs for video games or whatever the project is. They would be breaking it down into smaller tasks and accomplishing those tasks. And so one team leader might have, 2 to 10 people underneath them, but probably not more than that. So the project itself would be broken down into tasks, and the team leaders would be in charge of those tasks. And so one task might be marketing, one task might be something like digital sculpting, programming the app or the environment if it's a video game. And then those tasks are broken down into assignments, and those assignments are done by individuals, the builders. And so each week, it's the job of the team leaders to coordinate and collaborate with the builders and make sure that everything is on schedule to finish the project on time. The project leaders that are in charge of the whole project, they need to make sure that the team leaders are on schedule, and that if anybody needs to be moved around or things need to be changed, schedules need to be changed, that can happen. So there is a structure to it. I don't think that this will be everybody doing their own thing. I think there does have to be a hierarchy, a structure, so that everybody knows what their job is, what their responsibility is to finish the project on time, and everybody can just focus on that. Now, the final part, and I think maybe the trickiest part of this whole thing, is how do you figure out what percentages each person gets? Let's say there's 100 people working on this project, and you could say, well, we'll just give each person 1% of the project. Everybody owns 1% of the final product. But the thing is that in an organization, most of the productivity will come from a minority of the people that are working on that project. The square root of the total number of individuals produce half the output. So for example, if there's 10 people working on a project, then what is the square root of 10? I don't know. But if there's 100 people working on a project, then 10 people will do about half the work for the entire project. And so for those 10 people, it's not fair if everybody gets 1% because they did half the work for the entire project. So what would be more egalitarian is if those 10 people received half of the percentage, received 50% of the project, and the other 90 people shared the other 50% based on how much they contributed to the project. And so there's a couple ways to go about this. You can go down and break up the project into those tasks and say each task, maybe this task is going to be worth about 5% of the project. And once it's finished, then it's done. I like that idea because then you're not paying people based on the amount of time that they spend on something. I prefer people get paid based on their productivity instead of their work hours, because if more productive people are able to finish a task in half the time, then they should be rewarded for that. That's where I'm coming from. And as I structure these types of projects, that's how I want to figure it out. I want to figure out how to do that. And I think the most important thing is just that everybody is clear on their understanding of what their responsibility is, and everybody is transparent and clear on what the percentage of the project that they'll receive if they complete their task and if they do it well. What percentage of the finished project will they get? And so transparency goes a long way, and trust. Everybody working together will do their best to make it a profitable endeavor so that everybody receives some benefit from it. Now, I said that this would allow small teams to compete with huge industries. Let me explain that a little bit. You know, at the end of a video, when you see the credits and there's thousands of names that go into the building of that project. Well, right now, how things are structured with employees, nobody could afford to do that except the huge studios like Disney and Netflix. You know, they have the funds to do it. But how does somebody that's small go about competing with these behemoths? The answer, I think, is these types of projects. And so everybody on that list, something as big of a project as, say, an Avengers movie, maybe that does need tens of thousands of people. It used, 2,000 employees for a year. But if you had 10,000 employees and you were able to split that project into small enough bite-sized pieces so that everybody could be working on that project part-time while they have another source of income, another job, or something like that, then you're able to do something that is just as high quality as these big blockbuster films for a fraction of the cost, because people are donating their time and their resources and their labor in exchange for a percentage of that project. And so it's like everybody at the end, when you see all those names, all of those people would own part of that finished video, of that finished project. With this method, small studios and individual groups that are able to collaborate effectively can compete with huge studios that have millions of dollars to spend on different projects. The exciting thing is that you could start a project like this right now. If you're interested in something like this, send this video to somebody that you'd like to collaborate with and come up with a project that you could work on for a month. There's so many resources. And if you have any resources, you can put them below, but there's a lot of resources that provide free software for people to collaborate. There's Google where you can collaborate on projects. There's Unreal Engine for building video games. That's a free software, so lots of people can collaborate on a project. The technology is there. The time is there. People have extra time. People have the skills that are needed. Whatever it is, there's somebody that maybe works in that field that is an employee that's thinking, you know what, I'd like to work on something of my own that I can own a part of. Maybe they don't know how to do that, but this is a way to get started. I want to start doing projects like this. If you're interested in a project like this, share this video with your friends that might also be interested and see if you can't get something going, because I really do think that this is the future without employees. These aren't employees, these are collaborators. I'm really curious to see what you guys think. If you have any comments, you can put them below. I'm really excited about this. I'm talking to a friend right now, and we're trying to get something going, probably a video game at the beginning, to kind of test out this concept and see, is this something that could actually work? But I'd like to kind of get the ball rolling, and maybe eventually, we'll create a network of people that have different skills, that are good at what they do, that could collaborate on many different projects. But all it takes is one project to go huge, and you're set. Feel free to reach out if you'd like to collaborate on some type of project. If you liked the idea of this structure and you're thinking, yeah, I could do this with somebody, we could set up our own business, reach out, share this video with them, see what they think. You know the drill. Like, share, subscribe. Okay, that's it for me. I'll see you in the next video.